Всем привет, я Хенки, и мы продолжаем игру Зов Ктулху. Мне пришлось перепроходить все заново, спидранить, так сказать, потому что звук игры не записался. Так что часть придется перепроходить. Вот тут я остановилась в прошлый раз. Это было очень давно. Я уже не очень хорошо помню, что будет дальше. Надеюсь, на этот раз с записью будет все в порядке. Я не хочу опять все проходить с нуля. Это очень много, очень долго. Я постаралась сделать те же самые выборы, но не все сошлось. Я даже не знаю почему.
The day is only starting. It's fine.
How's our fugitive? Dr. Fuller hasn't reported your disappearance to the force, but that'll come soon.
Bradley?
Who else would it be?
Mr. Pierce, are you all right? You look like you saw a ghost.
There are things I can't explain.
Tell us. What happened?
What I'm sure of now is that the Hawkins case isn't just an accident.
And what brings you to that conclusion?
The fact that Charles Hawkins survived the fire.
I don't understand. Mr. Hawkins was buried.
That's what he would have you believe.
I have a hard time believing you.
You were there, Bradley. You even opened fire on him.
I'd remember that.
Why would he fake his own death? Do you think he covered up his wife's murder?
That's possible.
It seems hard to swallow. Don't you have anything more concrete, Pierce?
Почему бы не вырыть его могилу? Там наверняка нет трупа.
You two know each other pretty well.
It's a tiny island. Everyone knows everyone. Especially since I'm a police officer and Marie's a doctor.
The chemistry is obvious.
I do seem a little bit stupid, don't I? Anyway, let's get back to the business at hand.
Bradley, what do you remember?
I don't understand your question.
The night we went into the Hawkins mansion. You don't seem to remember the tunnels and what occurred there.
No memory of going down any tunnel. No, we were in the manor, then,
Then what?
The rest is quite blurry. I don't recall how I came back home.
And then?
I went to visit you at the hospital and called on Marie's help to get you released.
And you don't remember the events of the tunnel?
I don't. Let's talk about something else.
Dr. Fuller seems to be leaving a trail of corpses. Not to mention those strange machines, chains, and tools of all kind.
Yes. I've been telling you that Fuller uses his patients as guinea pigs.
What I saw was more akin to torture than medicine.
Do you even hear what you're saying? Dr. Fuller is highly respected.
It's the truth, Ethan. And I'll prove it to you. I'm listening, Mr. Pierce.
I found a file bearing Sarah Hawkins' name in the Institute's basement.
It makes sense. A powerful family like the Hawkins had the means to hide such a disgrace.
But everyone knows the Fullers have been taking care of the Hawkins for at least a generation. And all were aware of Mrs. Hawkins' fragility.
Perhaps, but no one would allow a psychiatric internment.
From what I read in the file, Fuller used her as a subject of his experiments.
Francis Sanders and Sarah Hawkins, subjects of Dr. Fuller. Why those two?
Given the energy he pours into Riverside, I presume it was Fuller's creation.
His father's, to be correct. He was a surgeon on board the Scylla. He founded the hospital in 1904 with funds from the Hawkins family before he died and his son Thomas Fuller took over.
Two families inextricably linked.
Most island families are that way. Captain Fitzroy's father was also a seaman aboard the Scylla.
Powerful families dominating everything.
Yes, and as you could tell, Dr. Fuller is like some crazed emperor.
He wouldn't be happy if he knew we were snooping around.
I know the risks. I don't fear him. Do you wish to know anything else?
I have flashbacks. They haunt me.
What did they do to you?
There was that Dr. Fuller and a nurse. Blood everywhere. My legs, the pain, I couldn't bear it. I was screaming. They injected me with something. I woke up at the Institute. Bradley was there.
And how you scared us. You seemed demented.
You likely woke up during the anesthesia. No wonder those memories haunt you. What in God's name were they doing to you?
What happened afterwards?
When I woke up the second time, I was in a padded cell. That's where you found me, Doctor. After you released me, I got a good look at what's in store for the patients of the Riverside Institute. Hallucinogenic gas pumped into the cells. An infernal machine, horrific medical experiments.
Impossible. Dr. Fuller would never do such a thing.
You should believe it, Ethan. What Mr. Pierce saw is precisely what I've been trying to prove. Did you discover anything else?
Что с его лицом? Вроде бы это все.
Francis Sanders. Do you know him?
Of course, he's a patient. Or was. I haven't seen him since Dr. Fuller had him transferred to the basement.
He knew Sarah Hawkins, and that's what killed him.
What? How did he die?
I'm not sure I can explain it.
Tell me how Mr. Sanders died.
Какой-то кризис среднего
I didn't
возраста.
see what, but something was there with us.
Of what do you speak?
Sanders said it was Sarah Hawkins' visitor. He spoke of it like a living being.
Sarah Hawkins? Have I missed something here? This makes no sense. I don't see how it can help crack the Hawkins case.
You really think she's involved? How could she have murdered Mr. Sanders?
Francis Sanders mentioned Mrs. Hawkins just before dying. It's no coincidence.
You know, Francis Sanders was a well-known art collector. I guess you can still pay a visit to his wife, Irene Sanders.
An art collector, you say? That's probably how they met.
If you plan on having dinner at the Sanders household, please spare the widow the tale of her late husband's suffering.
I don't agree. She deserves the truth.
But that truth may be biased. We don't know the bottom of it.
Я думаю, лучше ничего конкретного ей не говорить, потому что это звучит очень странно.
Without a plausible explanation
Она
for what I
подумает,
saw,
что либо я
let's
псих,
not jump to
либо
That
я
seems wise
выдумываю, и
indeed.
я убила ее
Very
мужа.
well. I'll go to see Francis's widow.
Наверное.
Perhaps I'll find a link between her husband's death and Sarah Hawkins.
Don't end up in the hospital this time.
I'll do my best.
Тут вроде бы ничего нигде нет. Ничего.
The other night's events are still confused in my head.
Он красит глаза, подводит.
Let us go now and learn the truth about what's happening on this island.
Очень надеюсь, что это видео запишется, что его звук запишется, что звук моего голоса тоже запишется, и что качество будет нормальным, потому что я уже с этим замучилась. Зато на этот раз я буду решать загадки чуть-чуть быстрее, потому что я уже это проходила.
What can I do for you, sir?
Mrs. Sanders, I'm a private detective. We must talk about your husband and his ties to Sarah Hawkins. Can I come in?
You may. However, before we go any further, please know that my husband died yesterday.
That is precisely what brings me here.
Well, well, look who's here. You know each other.
Our paths crossed, briefly. The brave detective has a talent for sticking his nose into my business.
I bump into her every time I'm investigating someone's death.
It's a small island, detective. My island. It's better that it's you bumping into me.
You're investigating Francis' death. Why? Who hired you?
I spoke to Francis before he died. His story suggests a link to a case I'm working on.
Well, since this business has got nothing to do with me, I'll be in your husband's office, Irene. We'll carry on later.
Very well, Miss Baker. This way, Mr. Pierce. And do make yourself comfortable. It would seem that you have much to tell me. May I inquire as to when you had the opportunity to talk to my husband?
Yesterday, I met him at the hospital. He spoke to me about Sarah Hawkins.
Oh, of course he spoke to you about her. That's all he talked about. Sarah Hawkins and her paintings. Please forgive my tone. The fact is that I have not been allowed to see him since he was interned. You, on the other hand, a perfect stranger, were able to see him and even talk with him the day he died. How was he? Were you present when he had this attack? What happened?
What happened to your husband is terrible, Mrs. Sanders. But from what I saw, it was inevitable. The man I met yesterday had lost his reason. He suffers no longer, if you would allow me such a platitude.
Of course. Thank you for your kind words. Nobody in that hospital would have deigned to speak them to me. However, it will require more than that to soothe my mind. I need to understand. How could this happen? In a reputed institute? And right before your eyes? Did you not do anything to help him?
Mrs. Sanders, I understand your grief, and I extend my deepest condolences to you. But I had nothing to do with the death of your husband. I've just arrived on Darkwater. I'm investigating the death of the Hawkins family.
The death of the Hawkins family? You mean it was not an accident? This accursed island knows only tragedy after tragedy. You too would be advised to flee it like the plague. Oh, I'm tired, Mr. Pierce. I would be grateful if you could tell me what you expect of me, and then leave.
How did you come to meet Sarah Hawkins?
We were the wealthiest and most influential families on Darkwater. Of course we would know each other. And when Charles returned from Europe with his sweet little artist, she and her sinister paintings were destined to catch my husband's eye. He bought many of her works over the last 5 years. They adorn his macabre gallery.
May I ask you what Miss Baker is doing here? How do you know her?
My business with Miss Baker is private, Mr. Pierce.
But you do know what kind of business Miss Baker is in, don't you?
I am no fool. Please believe that much, at least.
Did your husband talk to you about Sarah Hawkins' visitor? A shambler, to use his precise terms.
Well, you can imagine that's all he talked about. It's exhibited at the center of the gallery. No better place for the painting that endowed him with the privilege of such a shameful and miserable end to his life.
Hold on. The Shambler is a painting by Sarah Hawkins.
Who else to paint such horrors? Take a look for yourself, if you feel so inclined.
It is my only lead at this stage. I suppose I have nothing to lose.
Then you have paid no heed. For my part, I refuse to set foot in that gallery again. But if you're so eager to see it, I would urge you to make the most of your visit. Because I count on ridding myself of that thing as soon as I can.
Thank you, Mrs. Sanders. I won't be long.
Интересно, кому она отдаст эту картину? Или выбросит ее?
Did she really care for him after all? The day the Shambler came into the Sanders' lives.
Это ее портрет.
Frances Sanders and Sarah Hawkins were close. Friends, even? A house of artists. Sanders' accession register. He wrote beside the Shambler, "Finally." What did Sarah Hawkins fear so much that she didn't want to sell the painting? He finally won. Was Sanders aware of his imminent doom? She didn't want Sanders to have the painting. She must have felt devastated. She despises Sarah Hawkins, but it's the painting she truly hates. Why? The Shambler. I need to see it.
прошлый раз из-за этой картины я подумала, что мне пора спать. И у меня в глазах все
Let's
растекается.
see what this cylinder has to say once it's inserted in a phonograph.
Irene, I made a mistake. I fear that it might be too late for me. Nobody should enter, except to burn everything. I never had the courage. Pay somebody to do it. He's inside my head. I see him behind my eyelids
Пианино.
each time I shut my eyes. I can't take any more. I can't hold him back.
Is this dagger
Это
part of Sanders' collection,
совершенно
or was
бесполезная
he seeking to
подсказка.
acquire it?
По-моему, в пещере лежал точно такой же кинжал. Может быть, и не такой. Если такой, то подсказка бесполезна.
Irene, I made a mistake. I fear that it might be too late for me. Nobody should enter, except to burn everything. I never had the courage. Pay somebody to do it. He's inside my head. I see him behind my eyelids each time I shut my eyes.
Все.
I can't take any more. I can't hold him back. Forgive me.
I could use one of those. A strange Amerindian pendant. An old diary. Strange. For months, Sarah Hawkins refused to part with her painting, to finally give it away for nothing.
Я пока что не знаю, как все это повлияет на судьбу. Вообще. Все мои выборы, где говорилось, что они будут влиять на судьбу. И будут ли они как-то серьезно влиять или нет? Или это мнимое влияние на судьбу, как обычно делают в играх? Или только на концовку? Попробую сломать.
That's twice you've stepped on my toes, Detective. Try not to make a habit of it.
I've got a lot of bad habits.
Some can be more fatal than others. What have you come looking for in this gallery?
I have a well-off client in Boston who heard about the death of Francis Sanders and wanted me to size up his estate before making an offer to his widow.
Perfect, Detective. The pretext? The body language? I would have bought it if it was the first time I'd seen your face. You're a good talker, Pierce. Your story will do for the moment.
And you? What brings you to the Sanders home?
I'm here on business. Irene asked me to liquidate all these paintings. She doesn't intend to hang around here for long.
Why you?
Believe it or not, there aren't many collectors on Darkwater. It needs someone with a network, and a means of transport to the mainland. A choice that comes down to Fitzroy and me. And I'm far more pleasant, wouldn't you say? Not now, sweetheart. I'd like to read this without some snoop looking over my shoulder.
Почему-то мне кажется, что она отдаст ей все картины, а та вместо того, чтобы сжечь ту картину с бродягой, отдаст это кому-то еще, и опять будет смерть, и потом опять, и опять.
These artifacts date from pre-Columbian times. Why was he so interested in old weapons?
Из подсказки. Шикарная озвучка. Куча шкафов, естественно,
The
потому
man
что это бой
transforms an
с
entire
боссом.
wing of his manor into an art gallery.
А еще они схалтурили и несколько статуэток поставили разного размера и разного материала. Абсолютно одинаковых. Не люблю, когда так делают в играх. Еще одна подсказка. Видимо, они считают, что мы глупые. Какой красавец.
What the hell was that?
Это бродяга. И на него нельзя смотреть. Но я так и не поняла, как он ловит. Даже несмотря на то, что я уже это проходила.
Down.
This dagger
Упс,
looks different.
поймал. Еще разок.
What the hell was that? Damn. This dagger looks different.
Да блин. Какой внимательный. Ну, в шкаф я не успею спрятаться.
What the hell was that?
Не надо. Нет.
This dagger looks different.
What's the matter with you?
Это было дольше,
You
чем
sure
в
you won't
первый
be
раз.
needing that hand? You're losing it, detective. At this rate, you're right. The bottle will get you before I do.
You didn't see anything.
I saw you within an inch of putting a dagger through your forearm. Did I miss something more interesting?
Не думаю, что стоит ей все это говорить.
It's nothing. I think I just drank too much.
That goes without saying. If you can't tell the difference between reality and fiction, then you're in real trouble.
Да. Лучше думай так.
My arm was disappearing into this painting. You must have seen that.
I saw you put your trembling hands on a collector's artifact. Where do you think you're going with that dagger?
It saved my life. It's an extraordinary dagger.
You should talk to Algernon Drake. He's an antique dealer here on Darkwater. He'll tell you all about it. From what I saw in the ledgers, it was him who sold it to Sanders.
It's not your style to give me free information like that.
Take it as payment for being my canary. A simple trade-off. Now go see your antique seller. I still got things to settle with Irene.
Что она там нашла в этой шкатулке? Я подходила, там точно было пусто. Па-па-пам. А торговца-то и нет.
Where's...
Подожди.
the bookseller? An old diary. Freud's The Interpretation of Dreams. It's the work that laid the foundations of psychoanalysis at the beginning of this century.
Кому надо, можете остановить и почитать.
The Book of Zion is the foundational work behind Helena Blavatsky's Theosophical movement. Its followers placed truth on the same footing as a religion.
Что это? Еще одна часть?
What does this strange book contain? This book contains unholy knowledge.
Эту книгу я не находила. Не знаю почему. Вроде бы тут все. Тут очень много книг.
A strange amulet. I have a feeling I'd better not touch it.
Его лучше не трогать, и он берет его с собой. Какой молодец.
What happened here? Let's start over. Where did they break in from? Blood. Seems like amateur work.
Да, даже тряпкой руку не обмотал, как обычно делают в фильмах.
To whom does this footprint belong? This burglar seems to be rather clumsy. What sort of thief leaves his tools at the crime scene? What killed all these animals? What happened that made the burglar flee before finishing his work? What the... Charles Hawkins? Looks like the symbol rejected Hawkins. Where did I see it? What sort of power did Sarah Hawkins' painting possess? Sarah Hawkins helped hide something in this safe. Drake put in a great deal of effort to hide whatever is in here. Everything is linked to the Sarah Hawkins case. Drake left instructions on how to find the combination of his safe. Is everyone on this island taking sleeping pills? What link did he find between Charles Hawkins and an old amulet?
Что-то, мне кажется, я зря эти книги читала. Похоже, что наш разум крякнется.
Arkham editions. Never heard of him. How many volumes are there in this collection?
Так. Где же я пропустила цилиндры? Вот они.
Cylinders that Drake tried to hide. I should perhaps listen to them.
And these red drops, like precious stones, lie fixed, set in divine gold. To be the guardian of the Grail does not protect me from its attractions, Henry. And I do confess it. I am willing to pay to know its secrets.
Things are not looking good. The chalice of knowledge.
Грааль. Тут, в общем, нужно посчитать красные кристаллики. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5.
I finally understood that we were only pieces on the chessboard of the gods. Let those of us who are still standing protect our White Queen from their dark soldiers. I see our number dwindling, and my will strengthens as my apprehension grows. We shall refuse to be the playthings of destiny.
The queen has little protection.
Вот я не помню, нужно считать с королевой или без нее. В общем, 5, либо 3, либо 4.
Dear friend, I thank you again for the anthology of the works of Arkham editions that you sent me. Volume 9, Azathoth and Other Horrors, seemed particularly relevant to my research. I never tire of browsing through them.
Drake talked about a particular volume. So these are the volumes that Drake was talking about in his message. What did Drake say about this collection? Drake talked about a particular volume. So these are the volumes that Drake was talking about in his message. What did Drake say about this collection? Drake talked about a particular volume.
Пять, 4 или 3 и 9. Наверное, лучше не стоит ее читать. Ты так не думаешь? Вот тут я, по-моему, закончила в прошлый раз. Так что давайте тоже на этом закончим. И увидимся в следующей серии. Всем пока!